You are listening to the one and only Visionaries Wrestling Network, envisioning excellence and providing your perfect podcast experience.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Why We Watch, the show for fans, bar fans, about fans. I am Mags, and today I have a very, very special guest for you guys. I've got someone who is not only a fan of wrestling, but this guy has transcended to being a wrestler, to living the dream that we all have as fans, and he's got to experience life inside that squared circle. But not only that, the dude's a rapper as well, and a top-notch rapper at that. Today, taking the time out of his day to come and speak with me from Guam, of all places. I'm absolutely so hyped to speak to this guy. It's One Man Crew. One Man Crew, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, my man.
Good. I'm so glad that we're able to do this. I mean, it's what, a 10-hour difference time gap, and you've took the time to speak to me so early in the morning. I so appreciate it. The first question that I'm gonna go with is the one I always start these shows off with. In terms of being a fan of wrestling, what was your first experience or your first memory of wrestling?
Dude, you're probably gonna hate me for this, man. But I think I was like 6 years old, and WrestleMania, believe it was maybe 7 years old. WrestleMania 6 or 7, which one of them? One of those WrestleManias, I believe it was 1990. Yeah, so WrestleMania. I can't remember. It was Ultimate Warrior versus Randy Savage, whichever one that was. Was it? Yeah. So anyways, I was at a babysitter's house and I wanted to play the Nintendo, and everybody else is watching WrestleMania, and I'm like, screw this. I want to play Nintendo. I want to play Super Mario Brothers. I don't want to watch this shit. Oh, excuse my language.
You can swear all you like. You swear all you like, sir.
All right, cool. So I was like, hey, I ain't down with this shit. I'm trying to play Nintendo. I was like a little Nintendo junkie. And so I didn't really think much of it at first. I didn't really watch it. I just, watched like 5 or 6 minutes of it because I'm one of them ADD assholes that don't really pay attention to much. And it went by for a few years that I still didn't really catch on to wrestling. But one day I was at the bowling alley, and they had WWF Superstars, the arcade game, in there. And I was playing that, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I like this game. So that gave me my first real taste of wrestling. I was like, Hulk Hogan, who's that? Jake the Snake. I'm going to check this out. So I went home. I was late to the party. When I turned it on Monday Night Raw, it was Undertaker versus King Mabel.
Wow. What a good introduction to wrestling.
Yeah. And so I watched it that night. My dad made me go to bed early, so I couldn't finish watching the main event of Monday Night Raw at that time. I think this was in like 1995 or something like that. Early 1995. Like January of 95, if I remember correctly. And I was hooked on it. I was sold right away on it. I wanted to get as much wrestling as I could, so I went down to the local video store where I lived in St. Mary's, Ohio at the time. It was just a little like rural town with like 7,000 people in it. And I went and grabbed a used copy of SummerSlam 89. And that was my first real event that I ever watched of wrestling, like a first pay-per-view. The main event was Hogan and Brutus with the Barber Beefcake versus Macho Man Randy Savage and Zeus, the guy that played Debo on the Friday movies. And my little brother Nick and I watched that, and I was just in awe of it. So I was hooked. From that point, I consumed every wrestling I could watch, WCW, ECW, WWF, all of it. And then finally I started watching the tapes of the Japanese stuff and the Mexico stuff. I would trade tapes with people on the internet and get like Michinoku Pro Wrestling, Big Japan Wrestling, FMW, and my fandom just grew from there, man. I was hooked, and I started doing that backyard wrestling stuff. I'm lucky I'm not burnt half to death, and I'm lucky I made it out of the backyard, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, that's the extent of the fandom, brother. I used to get like stuff off eBay, like Japanese wrestling posters. I had one of the Great Sasuke. It was a Michinoku Pro Wrestling poster. I bought it on eBay. I think I was like 2000. I think I was like 17 when I bought that. And then I ended up wrestling the Great Sasuke in his hometown of Iwate, Japan, in a death match, in a light tubes death match. It was a tag team match, and we won. Me and my tag team partner at the time, Jun Kasai. So it was kind of a dream come true. And then just to let you know how things go around full circle, I actually tagged with Brutus the Barber Beefcake against Butterbean and his this cop for like charity, like to raise money for drug awareness for kids for like Butterbean's reality show. Mm-hmm. And it was like a full circle thing, because like the first major pay-per-view I saw was like SummerSlam 89 on VHS. And my brother incidentally watched that with me, and he's the one that ended up taking a bump for Brutus the Barber Beefcake and getting his hair cut off. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
What an amazing story. That's it shows how small the world is. If like you said, you got into wrestling and that was one of the first things you started watching, and then you've ended up wrestling the guy. What an amazing story. When you were in that time when you first started getting into watching wrestling, who were the standout guys for you? Who were your like wrestling heroes?
Oh my God, I loved Bam Bam Bigelow. He was my favorite wrestler, hands down. Bam Bam Bigelow, Psycho Sid Vicious, Jerry the King Lawler, Bret the Hitman Hart. Yeah, those were my guys. I didn't really like Shawn Michaels that much. Everybody else loved Shawn Michaels. I didn't really like him that much until later. Like, well, I could really appreciate him, later on when I figured out, how good he was. But I was a heel mark, man. I like the bad guy wrestlers.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you look at wrestling nowadays, the heels are the cool guys, and that's who everybody seems to like. So has there ever been like a period in time when you kind of gave up on wrestling and you didn't feel that watching wrestling was for you anymore, and you kind of like lost a love for it?
Oh goodness, man. I would say I've never really lost the love for wrestling. I've always loved wrestling, but I stopped watching it after I started doing it, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, I broke into the business in the year 2000. I wasn't even old enough to do it. I lied to a promoter and told him I was trained by the Wild Samoans. I told him I was 18 years old and I was 17, and I kept watching it till I was about 20 years old. And then after that, I stopped watching it regularly. I just try to keep an eye on the product and see what's going on. After ECW and WCW died, I just stopped giving a fuck about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can understand it. So yeah, the current like mainstream product is not one that kind of appeals to you, like the AEWs and the WWEs of the world.
Well, nowadays, like I think it's interesting, but with the NWA Power, I like that. I don't like Dave Lagana very much, but I like he's kind of a condescending asshole, man. Like I tried to talk to him about like maybe coming in and doing a couple jobs as an enhancement talent or something, and like this dude is just like on another planet. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I try to be humble and be cool with him and everything, man. But the dude is just a freaking major league, like grade A, Article 1 asshole. You know what I'm saying? but like the NWA thing, like that's pretty dope, man. Yeah. And then the AEW, like this is like a kind of a boom period going on in wrestling, and I feel like I'm kind of like late to the party because I've been in this business for 19 years already, and I'm already getting too old and too fat, according to all the American promoters who like guys that look like underwear models. I guess if they don't fap to them, then they don't want to book them. I don't know, but
wow, turning into a shoot podcast. Boom. So, thinking back to when you was watching wrestling and you were a fan of wrestling, what would you say is your most favorite match that you've ever watched?
Oh shoot, man. Man, Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn. That was my favorite match from I believe it was Living Dangerously, like a ECW pay-per-view. I was like the most amazing stuff. And then Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from WrestleMania 10. Yeah, those matches were amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
There's so many great matches. I mean, it's hard to like pick like what's the favorite one. But man, I think Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels from them WrestleMania matches that they had, those are pretty good. Those are really good, actually. And then for recent memory, the Kenny Omega versus Okada match, that was really good.
The one from Dominion.
Oh, I don't even think I saw that one. I was talking about the Wrestle Kingdom one.
Oh yeah, it's still as good. The four matches they've had have been just quality on quality on quality.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you mentioned Jerry Lynn and Rob Van Dam, and over here in Britain, it was quite hard getting hold of ECW when it was actually on. And I got into ECW just as it had finished, in the first ever ECW DVD I got hold of was Guilty as Charged 2001, the last show, and that had a Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn match on it. Oh, and it was just outstanding. It was a kind of wrestling that blew me away. I'd never seen that kind of wrestling being in Britain before. Yeah,
man, those guys were amazing. There's just something about those guys, about those two guys together, something about them. Like they couldn't have that same match with anybody else, just each other. You know what I mean? That's how amazing it was.
Yep, totally agree. So let's go on to your wrestling career. When was it that you realised that you wanted to be more than just like a wrestling fan, and you actually had aspirations to get in the ring and actually become a wrestler?
Honestly, right away, man. Like as soon as I started watching wrestling regularly, I really wanted to do it so bad. Like I looked at it as like, hey, I can like have a good time and have fun and get paid for it. Mm-hmm. What kind of person wouldn't want to do this job? Like, that's what I thought at the time when I was a kid. Of course, getting older now and you realize your own mortality and how much of a toll it actually takes on your body. When you're young, you're invincible. You think you're invincible. And then you get older and you actually realize, damn, this is some hardcore shit that we do to ourselves. Like, it gets to a point where like if you're as fortunate as I've been and you're booked on like a legitimate tour where you're actually making a living at wrestling, and it becomes like any other job, and like you get like an injury or something and you got to keep working through the pain, and it becomes like it's like your dream come true becomes your worst nightmare. It's pretty insane, man. But to answer your question, man, I always knew I wanted to be a wrestler since I started watching it. And I started hanging out with local independent wrestlers who were trained by Robert Gibson from the Rock and Roll Express. I knew Robert Gibson since I was like 16. And no, I think I was 15 when he moved. He moved to Tuscaloosa. I moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama when I was 13. I was born in Ohio, but my dad got transferred down to a plant that makes car seats for Mercedes. And Tuscaloosa, Alabama is where Robert Gibson's originally from, I guess. And so he moved there and opened up his own pro wrestling apparel or whatever store, like, you know, where they sell the gimmicks, the T-shirts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so he started promoting his own shows, and I would just hang out with the wrestlers there. Bobby Dahlin, Danny Rowland, they were a tag team called the Black Sheep. And I would hang out with those guys, and they would see that, oh, this dude really wants to be in the business. So they would work out with me and let me train with them a little bit and like teach me how to take a bump, teach me how to hit the ropes, mess around with me in the ring, like bump me around, like do some moves on me and stuff so I could see how to take the moves. But at first I didn't have any like formal training. I just took what they taught me and I just kind of bullshitted my way in the business. but later on down the road, people took me under their wing and they like really trained me for real and taught me how to cut promos. Like New Jack, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's true. New Jack actually, I reached out to him on Facebook once and sent him some promos. And he asked me for my number and called me a couple times to coach me on my promos. So the reason I'm as like at the level I'm at on my promos right now is because of him. And that's just one example. Like dudes would like just pull me aside and teach me stuff, like Jack Lord and Mike Jackson. These are like Southeast, like kind of legendary wrestlers. And then when I went to Japan, I started like really training for real, like with the Japanese dudes at Taka Michinoku's wrestling school at Kaientai Dojo. Yeah. And then this dude named Fugo Yumeji, who was my manager, my sensei, he used to be working the office of 01. And he also worked as a wrestler too. But he was like a kind of a jobber or whatever. but he's cool though. He's a really good dude. He helped me make all my dreams come true, man. I got some pretty funny stories for you about that guy. So this guy named Nakamura, who used to own 01 or whatever, he was talking smack about me once on Facebook when I was trying to lobby to get booked over there. And then my sensei Fugo-san, he told me a story about how he promoted a show outside of 01 and made about $10,000, and he gave all the money to Nakamura, and Nakamura gave him back like $200.
Wow.
So yeah, like he did it out like loyalty by giving him all the money, and just to see if he would what he would do, and he only gave him back 200. So I said, wow, what a cocksucker. And he said, "Cocksucker? You know cocksucker-san?" I was like, "Cocksucker-san? Fuck you talking about, man?" And he showed me this karate magazine called Full Contact Karate. This dude is the editor of a magazine. His last name is Kakusaka. Cocksucker-san.
Wow. That's amazing.
Like, yeah, man. And I wanted to tell you this other story too. Like, I know I'm kind of veering off into some other territory.
I am absolutely loving these stories. You tell these stories all you want, mate.
All right, cool, man. So, I told you about when I tagged with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, right?
Yep.
So Butterbean, the boxer, I'm a big boxing fan. I love heavyweight boxing. In fact, when I make my beats, my hip hop beats, I think about heavyweight boxers walking to the ring. Like what would be dope for them to like walk out to the ring to, like the world heavyweight champion. So anyway, I reached out to Butterbean on MySpace and booked him for this convention so I could work with him in a singles match once. So a couple years later, he returned a favor by booking me on his reality show to do this, the charity battle against drugs thing. And he booked a motel room for me and my brother to stay at upstairs on the second floor. And then he brought Brutus to the bars to try to hunt for pussy or whatever. And he brought him back because I guess his hunt was not successful. And so my brother was smoking a cigarette out on the balcony, and Brutus looks up at my brother and he goes, "Hey, brother, you smoke?" And my brother said, "Yeah, you want a cigarette?" And Brutus said, "No, weed." And so,
Wow.
So my brother said, "Yeah, man, come on up." So he came into our motel room, and my brother had his PlayStation 3 hooked up to the TV where he was playing Black Ops, and we were smoking weed with Brutus the Barber Beef King. He was like, "That's Black Ops, isn't it, man? That's fucking cool, man." And I was like, "Yeah, man." I was trying to like relate to him in some way, like talking about bodybuilding and stuff. I was like, "Have you ever seen that documentary, Pumping Iron?" He goes, "Have I seen Pumping Iron? Brother, we were pumping iron." And so I started talking to him about the match the next day, and by this time we're stoned, like really fucking high as fuck. And I said, "This guy that was tagging with Butterbean tomorrow, he's not a worker, he's not a wrestler, he's never worked a match in his life." He said, "You gotta be fucking kidding me. Never worked a match in his life?" I said, "No, man, we're going to have to give him a crash course tomorrow and teach him how to sell." He's like, "You can't teach a guy how to sell in a day. I got news for you, brother. I'll make him fucking sell." Fortunately, we didn't have to make him sell because Butterbean kind of put him on game already, kind of trained with him or taught him a little something like in advance. But the funniest thing about that whole thing is like we did this assembly at the school in the morning. I worked a match with like one of the fake Doink the Clowns, beat the fuck out of that guy. And then Brutus gets on the microphone lecturing the kids, talking about, "Say no to drugs, kids. Marijuana's bad for you. It leads to cocaine. It leads to acid. It leads to you're gonna die young. Just don't do drugs." And then right after the speech, he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, brother, you guys got another joint?"
Brilliant. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
It was pretty awesome, man. I got a funny Sabu story for you too, man.
Hit me with it.
So Sabu is one of my favorite wrestlers too from ECW. And one time, this is like 2011, my brother and I, my brother was my homie, man. He would like drive me to all these wrestling shows and stuff all over the country in the United States. And he drove me to the 2011 gathering of the Juggalos to work for their Juggalo Championship Wrestling back when they were promoting that Legends and Icons event with all the, Roddy Piper versus Terry Funk was in the main event or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I worked some of like the kind of undercard shows, the little oddball wrestling shows or whatever. So Sabu wanted to work this weapons battle royal. I think it was like the main event of the show. Maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. But it was a weapons battle royal, and and I heard that he wanted to work it and that he was going over. And I mean, he's winning it. So I walked up to him backstage and he was smoking a cigarette. And I said, "Hey, Sabu, can I bum a cigarette off you, brother?" He said, "Yeah, man, sure." And I said, "How you feeling, man? You feeling all right? How's your back?" And he was like, "Oh, my back feels good, man." I said, "Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that you had some back troubles at one point." He's like, "Oh, man, yeah, I'm feeling really good now." I said, "Yeah," I'm trying to relate to him in some way, like, "Yeah, man, I'm starting to have some back problems myself. So I'm glad to see that you're seeing better days because that gives me hope for the future." He's like, "Oh, yeah, man, there'll be better days." I said, "Well, what I really want to talk to you about is I'm working this weapons battle royal with you, and I don't want any of these no names eliminating me, so I'd really like for you to eliminate me." And for some reason, he liked that. He was like, "Okay, brother, I'll take care of you." So everybody's working the battle royal, and Sabu comes out like in the middle of the match, like as a surprise entrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
He comes in there and lightly kicks me in the stomach twice and throws me out and says, "Out you go." And I jumped over the top rope and eliminated. And then he picks up the chair and starts fucking murdering everybody in there, like concussion city, left and right. Pop, pop, busting these motherfuckers in the head as hard as he can, man. I was like, what the fuck? I was the only person in that match he did not hit with a chair.
Wow. So just imagine you'd have some cigarettes. You might have been beat up by Sabu.
No, man, I bummed a cigarette off him.
Yeah, so if you'd have turned up with some cigarettes and you didn't need to bum a cigarette off him, you would have been caved. He would have caved your head in with a chair.
Man, I don't know, man. Well, I didn't actually walk up to him to bum a cigarette off him. I just bummed a cigarette off of him, like to, kind of
to break the ice.
Yeah, break the ice, and because I really didn't smoke or anything back then, like cigarettes or whatever. I do now, but I didn't. Thanks, Sabu.
So when you first started training, who were some of the guys who inspired you? Who did you like want to emulate?
Bam Bam Bigelow, man. It's weird, man, because I really wanted to be like Bam Bam Bigelow so bad when I was a kid. Like, I'm talking like 12, 13, 14 years old. Like, I loved Bam Bam Bigelow so much. I wanted to be just like him. And then over the years, I kind of forgot about that. And for some reason, like the way the universe works, bro, like you put that energy out and it comes back to you. When I got booked in Japan, my first tour in 2012, all the Japanese fans were calling me Bigelow at first until I actually made a name for myself over there. And then they stopped calling me Bigelow and actually start calling me by my name. One Man San, One Man Crew, Mr. One Man, One Man San. That's what they call me now. But at first they were like, Bigelow. My name's not Bigelow. I said, my name's not Bigelow, God damn it.
So you've trained with former WWE wrestler Delay Amarga, who's obviously one of the legendary Anoa'i family. How did that partnership and how did that training come about?
So those guys I was talking to you about that were trained by Robert Gibson, Bobby Dahl, he had his own wrestling school down in Pensacola, Florida, and I kind of invited myself down there to go and work out at it, and so at that time, Eki was the other trainer of that school. So, and he was not like famous or anything at that point. This is like April of 2000. It was like spring break. So I went down there during spring break of 2000 for like a week or two, and I trained with them every night that they had training there. And I actually worked a match with Eki at the training school. Like, he put me in a Samoan drop. He even did the fucking the running stink face thing that he did, where he like runs all the way across the ring and slams his ass in your face.
Yeah.
not the stink face, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I call it the running stink face, but yeah, I got to work with him, got to train with him. He taught me how to take a bump. He taught me how to take a Samoan drop. Like, he was like, no, don't take a bump like that. Take a bump like you're trying to destroy the ring with your body. I was like, oh shit. I don't know about all that now. I ain't trying to break my fucking back at 17 years old. But I did what he said, though.
Yeah, and so you mentioned earlier that you've done tours of Japan, and you've done actually quite a lot of work in Japan and South Korea. I watched some of your matches for Freedoms and some of your Kaientai matches. What is it about that style of wrestling that made you want to get involved? Was it like just basically logistics with living in Guam, or was it something that you actively wanted to be part of?
Well, I actually moved to Guam so I could be closer to Japan. Mm-hmm. And I've been working in Japan off and on for 7 years now. I'm going to go back to Japan in next year, actually, probably about 5 or 6 months from now. And what made me want to go work in Japan is getting I think I was 16. I started trading tapes with people. I got FMW tapes, and I like fell in love with that deathmatch thing. Mm-hmm. With Atsushi Onita and Terry Funk and Cactus Jack. I watched the IWA Japan King of the Death matches, and I was just like enamored by that stuff. I was like, wow, these wrestling fans are really awesome. They're all quiet and shit, like they're watching a tennis match, and they're really respectful, and I was like, man, this is pretty cool. And then these Japanese girls are pretty cute too. I think I'd like to go wrestle over there and try to fuck some of them things. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. No, man. I just love Japanese wrestling, man. The deathmatch stuff is more. People actually label me as a deathmatch wrestler because they don't really know that I've only worked a handful of death matches, but it was some of the biggest things I ever done was those death matches. So a lot of people get the impression that I'm actually a deathmatch wrestler, but the truth of the matter is I probably worked like 10 death matches in my entire career, or 10 or 15 tops. Some of them I don't even count as death matches. They're more like glorified hardcore matches, but I worked regular matches like technical wrestling, like for like Southeast style wrestling for years, man. And but when I watched the Japanese deathmatch tapes, man, I was just so in love with it. I was like, man, I want to do this shit. I want to go over there. I want to go to another land where like people will actually like accept me. And
I mean, from watching the videos you put up on your YouTube channel, you can see that you really are good at the deathmatch kind of style, but then you can also see that you have got that technical skill, and you've got it's a really balanced kind of work style you've got. But what really stood out to me is the way that you interacted with the crowd, and you were like calling people motherfuckers, saying, I'm going to beat this guy up. And again, the crowd involved, I really, really enjoyed that. I thought you had that like comedy set part of it down as well. Yeah. So yeah, we're really, really impressed. I mean, like, we don't really get a lot of that kind of wrestling over here in Britain, but yeah, it was really, really good to watch. I really enjoyed watching your videos on your YouTube channel.
Thank you, man. That's good to hear that, man. Because like I'm always told how much I suck and shit. Like people always like tell me, you're terrible, or you suck, and you're nothing, and you ain't shit. But so it's like actually great to hear somebody who actually appreciates it. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely, not a problem.
So first and foremost, man, I'm an entertainer, bro, and like I'm not a body guy. I'm never gonna look like fucking Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior. I might look like Adrian Adonis or fucking American Dream Dusty Rhodes. But you know what? I could talk shit like Dusty Rhodes too.
Yeah. So you mentioned then you're entertaining, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, but you're not only a wrestler, you're actually a hip-hop artist. when did you start getting interested in hip hop and rap?
Oh man, I started listening to hip hop and rap in 1992. I was 9 years old. That's when Dr. Dre The Chronic came out, and my aunt bought no, it was CD. She did have it on CD, and I listened to that, man, and I was like, this is my shit. I loved it, like Dr. Dre The Chronic, and then I started listening to like DJ Quick. DJ Quick is in the motherfucking house. Talking about black pussy and all kind of weird shit, man. I'm like, wow. I don't know what the fuck he's saying, but it sure sounds cool. So like I just started listening to like the mainstream stuff, MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, and then I've always loved rap. And then when I moved to Alabama, then I got turned on to the Dirty South stuff, like like the No Limit, Master P, 3-6 Mafia from Memphis, 8 Ball and MJG, Outkast from Atlanta, like all the Dirty South stuff. I was like, wow, I love this. And so a lot of people, when they hear me rap, a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah, I'm a white dude. No, I'm not Eminem, and I'm not trying to be like Eminem. My influences is mostly like the Dirty South shit. You know what I mean? Those dudes aren't fucking Eminem. You know what I mean?
I mean, when I was checking your stuff out, which you can find on your YouTube channel and it's on Spotify as well, I kind of got instantly like a Bubba Sparxxx kind of vibe. Do you know that kind of that flow and wordplay that he has?
Yeah, I never really was into Bubba Sparxxx. I don't really know much about his work except for that like mainstream stuff that he did, like the hit or whatever they put out. I don't remember any Bubba Sparxxx anything. Like I really don't. Like I was never really into like other like white rappers, I guess you would say. Like I was just kind of like I just liked what I liked, man, and I don't try to be like nobody else. I just try to do my own thing and be creative and be entertaining and speak to what's relevant in my experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And people always compare me to this guy and that guy, and that's great, and I appreciate that. Like it's actually a good compliment because I do remember Bubba Sparxxx is a really good rapper. And I don't know if he still raps, but when he was on, like when he was in his day, he was the man. He was really good. So when people say that, I've heard people like compare me to so many rappers, dude, and I honestly I don't see it because I feel like I'm not like anybody else because I just talk about like my own like experience in life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was in no way trying to say that you were like trying to be the Bubba Sparxxx or it's just you had the same kind of the way you rapped. It was the same kind of like speed and flow and you used the same like wordplay. It was I were into Bubba Sparxxx for a couple of years at the time, and it just that was the instant thought I got. Wow, he like brought them kind of memories back for me.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you the truth, man. I might have to interpret that as a diss, bro. No, I'm just kidding.
Definitely not a diss. I don't want no beef.
I'm just fucking with you, man.
No, a lot of your tracks have kind of like positive like attitudes, and you're always like talking about how you want to like better yourself and better your situation. So I think your music's brilliant. I'm not a big rap fan, to be fair, but yours is the kind of music that I could easily get into, and I'm definitely going to be checking out a lot more of your stuff.
Man, thank you for that. I really appreciate that, dude. Like, I'll tell you, sometimes, man, I get so depressed because you wouldn't believe how many people actually like they break my heart by talking so much shit about me, and I don't know like what warrants this, like what I'm doing wrong to like make people that mad at me, man. I'm just trying to live my life and survive and make a better life for myself and make a better life for my family, man. And I really genuinely appreciate everybody who does support me, like the few hundred or whatever people that actually like do give a shit, man. Like you're in those 300, man. So I'm just saying three. I don't know how many it is, but dude, like when you say that, man, I really appreciate it, brother. For real. Thank you so much, man. You're
Definitely,
cool.
definitely not a problem.
Thanks for putting me over to everybody, man.
It's not a problem. I think one of the most important videos of yours that I watched wasn't even actually to do with a wrestling match or to do with your music. It was the talk that you gave to the students at George Washington R. I was so impressed with the way that you connected with them and the way that you gave them honest advice and opinions about how being a wrestler is. A lot of wrestlers kind of sugarcoat what the life of a wrestler is, and you were brutally honest about how it can be hard work, and if you want to do it, you've got to really stick at it. What's the best piece of advice that you were given from a wrestler, and what's the best piece of advice that you would give to someone who wanted to be a wrestler?
Okay, let's see. The best advice I ever got from a wrestler. Shit. I've gotten so much advice from a wrestler. Probably one of the best advices I ever got was keep your fucking mouth shut and your ears open. No, Kevin Nash once he told me to get all this weight off me because it's gonna make it harder on my body to persevere in the long run because wrestling really, and I'm gonna pass this along. I'm gonna pay this forward too as well because I can speak from my own experience regarding what he said to me. Because I asked him, I said, man, I'm starting to get beat up already, and I'm just now starting to get like some breaks. And he said, well, brother, you got to get that shit off of you. Like you got to get all that extra weight. You got to get it off you because it's going to cause inflammation. And he's like, talk to Dallas. He'll tell you what to do. Like Diamond Dallas Page. Mm-hmm. And so I did talk to DDP and he gave me a lot of good advice too. And one thing he said is you got to take the path less traveled in order to separate yourself from everybody else trying to do the same thing. In other words, you got to stay in your own lane. Basically, you got to make your own lane. You got to make your own path. You got to figure out a way around everybody else to get what you want. That's the most valuable information I ever got from anybody. But those were two pieces of advice I got like around the same time at the same show. Kevin Nash told me to get all this weight off me. So any wrestlers out there, try to get in the best shape you can. Try to take care of your body and make sure that you're working safe and not doing a bunch of dumb shit that's going to end up getting you injured because then you can't work and then you can't make money. And then you're going to be stuck working a fucking 9-to-5 shitty McDonald's job for the rest of your life, and we don't want that. So there's that, and then take the path less traveled. And do your own thing and fuck everybody else. Just do whatever you got to do to make it. You know what I'm saying? And then this, I want to share another piece of advice that did not come from a wrestler, but it was very, very sound and valuable advice. When I was 19 years old, I got busted for marijuana. I had one little bitty joint. In the state of Alabama, I had to go to a drug court program for 1 year.
Wow.
And I had to drive this old black guy home one day after the drug classes, and he looked like a Mississippi pimp. This guy was he had a zoot suit, a blue zoot suit, he had a Mac Daddy limp, and a cane and everything. And It must have been about 50-something years old. And he would be in the drug class talking about I'm just so happy I'm clean and I got a new chance at life and all this stuff. And then after class he was like, "Say, brother, you think you could give me a ride to the house?" I said, "Yeah, sure, man, get in." So I drove him I don't know, about 5 blocks away, and he had me drop him off at a crack house. And I'll never forget these words. He looked at me and he said, "You got to fake it to make it, brother." And he got out of the fucking car and went into the crack house. And I was like, damn. So I kind of applied that to everything else. Like, you got to fake it to make it. You got to speak it, believe it, and receive it, man. Like, you might not be a pro wrestler yet, but you call yourself a wrestler, you're going to be a wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Great word to live by. I mean, maybe not so much the crack house, but the fact that you've got to believe in yourself if you want to succeed at anything.
Yeah, man. Like, in talking to those kids at the school, man, that's what a lot of people think I do what I do for like the glory or whatever, and that's all bullshit, man. Like the whole famous thing, that's a gimmick. It ain't real. It's all bullshit. People forget about you just like that. If you're not on TV anymore after 2 weeks, they don't give a fuck about you. Mm-hmm. And the money runs out real quick. So the whole fame and rich thing, that I don't really give a fuck about that. At one point I did, because I was looking at it like every young impressionable person does, but come to find out it's just a pipe dream, and this business is just a job, and it's just like any other job. If you don't save your money and you don't make the right choices in your life, you're gonna end up with nothing. Mm-hmm. So the reason I do this now is so I can connect with other people, so I can reach out, so I can give advice to people, or inspire people, that inspire kids especially, and putting smiles on faces and making people happy and entertain people. That's what I'm in this for. I'm in this for selfless reasons. So that's why I don't understand why people hate on me so much.
Well, you've made a fan out of me, so everyone who hates you can go fuck themselves, basically.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate it, bro.
Absolutely not a problem. Honestly, wow. I'm so glad that we've done this. Can't wait for the people to hear it. Where can people find you on social media? Where can they find your music on Spotify, YouTube, all that kind of stuff? Where are you booked to be wrestling, so they can come and watch you and all that goodness?
Well, I'm on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Twitter. My Twitter handle's @OneManCrew, ONEMANKRU. Instagram, ONEMANKRU. You can hit me up on Facebook. My real name's Anthony Douglas Sanners, SANNERS. Feel free to hit me up with a friend request. I'm on every social media. I'm so easily accessible, man. Like, anybody who wants to talk to me, anybody who wants to be my friend, I'm cool. Like, let's do it. Like, hit me up. I'll talk to you. Because I'm not one of them people that thinks they're somebody. Like, I'm just a really, really blessed and fortunate nobody who just happened to make his dreams come true. And so I'm a regular person, just like anybody else. So if you guys want, hit me up, because I'm available for you anytime.
Absolutely. Wow, thanks again, One Man Crew. I've enjoyed this. You can find me on Twitter @DAJ Kirby. You can find the show on Twitter @WhilWeWatchPod. A massive, massive thanks to One Man Crew. Go and check out his stuff. Go and listen to his music. Go and watch his YouTube videos. Go and subscribe to him, because this guy needs to get to 1,000 subscribers so he can get that money from YouTube. Again, massive, massive thanks, One Man Crew. And this is the end.
You are listening to the one and only Visionaries Wrestling Network, envisioning excellence and providing your perfect podcast experience.